Hey guys, it's Kacey Kasem, and I'm bringing you my very first episode of Get Real with Kacey Kasem. And on this episode, I talked to one of my favorite people in the fantasy football industry, Russ Fisher. You guys might actually know him as Dynasty Outhouse on Twitter, at Dynasty Outhouse. He's a really cool dude who's one of the hosts of the Trade Addicts Pods. He also runs the Trade Addicts Leagues. He's one of the hosts of Dynasty Game Night, and he also owns the ffpodshirts.storenv.com website. He has the DAP network. He does split takes with Kevin Cutillo, and he also is just an all-around rad dude. Anyhow, we had a very long conversation, mainly because Russ likes to talk, but also because it was my very first episode and didn't know what I was doing at all. But I talked to him, we had a great time, and you'll really, really, really enjoy this podcast, I promise. Now, if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at @Kacey or the podcast on Twitter, for both of us, at GetReal_pod. You can also find my writing over with the Fantasy Footballers and with Fighting Chance Fantasy. So, without further ado, let me give you the newest DAP Network podcast. We have Get Real with Kacey Kasem and the wonderful Dynasty Outhouse, Russ Fisher.
Here podcast. Aren't you excited?
Yeah.
He was not the first guest on my last podcast. I told him I'd make it up to him. And so I get to bug him a lot about how to podcast and how to do dynasty trades and how to come off like a nice human being.
Well, I don't know about that last one, but I could definitely help you out with dynasty trades and podcasting. Those two I know a lot about.
Well, you are probably one of the all-time greats when it comes to fantasy football podcasting. Now I may be going a little overboard here.
No, that sounds right on track with.
But yeah.
See, I've gotten so past the awkwardness of being able to accept a compliment where I just say, no, that's wrong. I'm more than that. It's just like, no. Everyone's like, oh, well, I'm not going to call myself a fantasy expert. Who's a fantasy expert? I am. Duh. Why else am I doing this? People listen to me talk. That means I'm an expert. Of course I'm not an expert, but it's just so awkward to, be like, I think I'm good. Yeah. So I overplay it.
Well, that's good advice. It's especially to the people out there that are like, I want to get involved in this fantasy football industry stuff, but I'm not any kind of expert.
Oh, yeah. Talking. That's all it ever is. It's funny. That ridiculous group chat we're in that has had 6,000 names at this point, but now I think it's like Degenerates Inc. or something like that. They were talking about like length of shows, and I'm like, quality over quantity. Unless you're me. I just talk a lot because I'm pretty sure most of the stuff I say is nonsense. So if I say a lot of it, sooner or later, law of averages says something good's going to come out of my mouth eventually.
That's great advice though. Keep talking. If all else fails, you'll get it. So Russ, with the podcasting thing, is that all you've done in the fantasy industry, or have you ever tried your hand in anything else?
No, all I've ever done is podcasting. I wrote one article that was not actually a fantasy article. It was biographical, I guess. My issue is I have a really bad attention span. B, and just to show how bad my attention span is, I almost said 2. I always have to go like, I said A. B, I write exactly like I talk, and talking is so much easier than writing, so why am I going to give myself a deadline? And to me, there's less pressure to have to sound smart in what you're saying. But like when you're writing an article, that's official, that's real. Like,
sure.
And I have such a jerk sense of humor sometimes that like sarcasm does not always go well in text, that I know I'm going to say something. People are like, why are you writing like such an asshole, man? Like, no, it was a joke. I
didn't mean to come off that way.
No, I just meant to say you're stupid. I didn't mean to really, it's just something I was never super interested in. And honestly, I didn't even really know I was interested in podcasting until I sort of got into the Twitter world of everything.
Exactly what I was going to ask you about, how you got into podcasting. How was that something that came on your radar?
I legitimately don't know. I had the idea for the Trade Addicts Leagues. And I was thinking about it, and I'm just like, the only trade podcast I knew at the time was the Dynasty Tradecast with Eric Bertzloff, Nate Powell, and Dan Sanio. And it was entertaining, but like some of the values they were talking about were just kind of awful. And this will date us a little bit because I know you're going to agree. You'll know what I'm talking about here. It was right at the decline of Des Bryant. where
Okay.
he went from like stud and felt real fast. He fell to like nobody wanted him or anything. And they're like, are you kidding me? I'm not selling him for less than a first. You could easily get a first. And I'm just like, nope. And then I just stopped listening because that was my breaking point. It's just like, dude, what world are you living in that someone is giving a first or expects to get one for this dude who, like, there was no graceful decline for Des Bryant. He was a wide receiver one. He had half a season of like being okay as a wide receiver two, and then he died. Clearly not literally, but fantasy wise, just gone. And then there's still and I'm just like, and again, nothing against their show. Their show was I listened to that show for years, but it's just like I don't find this actionable at all. And then of course I'm like, let's do this. I'm going to make a podcast. I don't know how to make a podcast. I don't know what to sound like. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So I went looking to see if there's other trade shows. And then I stumble onto Dynasty Trades HQ. And I'm just like, oh, well, this is kind of what I want to do. So maybe I just won't do this. like, of course you find Shane Manila right away and he just dashes all your hopes and dreams and then later becomes your soulmate. But that's really besides the point. That's really what it was. It was just like trading is why I got into Dynasty, because there's just none of it in seasonal. Keeper leagues helps a little bit, but still it's not a lot. It's not much you could really do anything with. So I was just like, no, let's try this. And then I actually, before starting in Dynasty, I listened to podcasts and I read articles. The only time in my life I read articles was like for a year, for like a season before jumping into it. Mostly because I wanted to make sure I wasn't making a huge mistake. I could have just quit if I didn't like it. That didn't cross my mind at the time. I'm like, no, this is going to ruin my life if I drop out. So I did my research. I went into it. So I'm on Twitter. My only sub was to RotoViz at the time. That was like the only site I knew existed, which was good, I guess, because here I am now, baby. And
the dream.
Oh yeah, that mad podcast money, yo. And so I'm like, yeah, maybe I should start a podcast. And then I found HQ, and I'm just like, oh, well, shit. All right. No, I think I'm going to do it anyway. And my original idea was, because at this time I had 2 Trade Addicts Leagues set up already. And my original idea was me be the host and every week just bring on a different dude from, I could say dude because at the end there was only guys.
Yeah, right.
Actually, it's just a reflex to say dude, and then I realized I'm not supposed to be doing
that.
Hey,
I'm a dude. I'm good.
Yes. If you go watch the cinema classic Good Burger, the song at the end, I'm a dude, he's a dude, she's a dude, we're all dudes now. So dude is non-gender specific. How's that for an awesome sidetrack?
I like it.
And so like I tell the people in the 2 leagues and they're like, that's awesome. That's amazing. Let's do this. Let's go. And then all of a sudden, no, man, can't. No, sorry. No, man, can't. I'm like, oh, well, shit, clearly this isn't going to work. And it's really funny. Like everyone asks how I met Brian Har, my co-host. I did the first episode by myself. It was like 10 minutes. It was really just like, hey, this is what my show is going to be. This is what we're about. And then I did like a quick trade.
For you?
Right? Oh, I would go back to listen to the first few episodes. I am not.
I love doing that.
What I am now. I'd be terrified to listen back, especially that first one. That first one would be so edited, you wouldn't even recognize it. And then the second episode was with Tyler Gee, who was doing the fantasy football franchise at the time. Yeah, he helped me out. He literally set up everything for me. It was great. And we used Zencaster, which everyone loves, because it records the audios on separate tracks. So if you're talking over each other, you could just erase one person's talking. It recorded the 2 of us at different speeds.
Oh no.
So I had to literally piece it together like a puzzle. And like it wasn't bad that like it sounded bad, but like I couldn't just paste and go. I had to keep moving them together. And I'm like, maybe I just don't want to do this.
I know, right? To start off like that, I would be like, throw in the towel, I'm done.
Yeah, so I did more research, and I found back then we could do, there was Skype recorders, because back then Skype didn't record itself. So you had a separate program that recorded your Skype conversation. So I did that. And I was looking for a co-host for episode 3, and Brian, who was in Trade Addicts 2, was just like, hey man, I've been looking to get back into podcasting, because he did a couple of episodes of Superflex Super Show. He's like, I've been looking to like really step into it. He's like, can I be your guest this week? And I'm like, you want to be my guest every week? Like, literally have never talked to this guy before. And I'm like, you want to be my co-host? Because I don't want to keep doing this every single week. And he's like, okay. And that's literally how I met Brian Har, the dude I've been podcasting with for 2.5 years already. Like literally just like, please don't leave me. I grabbed him and didn't let him go.
You guys, I was going to ask you that question about how you came to have Brian as your co-host, because like you guys really do mesh really well together. And I think that's really important to have that. It worked out great for you, and you have a product that's a quality product that's been around for a while. So,
well, I mean, the truth is also it takes time. If you go back to the beginning, I talk over him a lot because he is like Western PA, and I am New Jersey, New York. Like my parents are from Brooklyn. I'm born and raised New Jersey, but man, we talk fast. We talk a lot. And Brian is okay. Well, you see. What I was going to say about the Steelers, and I'm just, but you talk to a guy a lot. You learn the cadence of his talk. You learn when he's going to end his sentences. And sometimes at this point, I just talk over him to get him to stop talking. But that's not really the same thing. But no, like really, finding Brian was complete and utter accident and complete and utter wonderful. I love that dude. Like me and him get along so well. I was talking to Zach Reed from the Dummies the other day, and Brian took 2 weeks off and came back last week. And he's like, you two literally sound different when it is just you two talking to each other. And I'm like, I know, I felt that when he came back after 2 weeks. And it's just the truth. It's just like, hey, my brother's here. Let's talk some fantasy football for a while. And again, blind luck of just saying, hey, yo, you're my co-host now.
Well, it worked out for you. And you guys really, I mean, for real. And that's one of the things too, is, I really haven't podcasted a lot, like on my own, but podcasting, I go on a lot of shows, and those shows where like the hosts like don't really feed off of each other or really get each other are the shows. Yeah. You're like the whole time thinking like, okay, when is this gonna be over with? Not like, I want to answer more questions. Where did the time go? Why is it over?
Yeah. That's also when I just start talking over everybody. I mean, I clearly won't name names. There's a couple of times where I just like, and it's really funny because I listen to podcasts at 1.5 speed, like 1.5x. And then you talk to a person you've listened to their show before, and it just feels like they're talking like this because you're used to them talking like this. Yeah, that's the real speed of how they speak. And then all of a sudden, I'm just like, all right, no, I can't handle this at real speed, so I'm just going to keep talking. And then especially like if you give me a detailed show sheet, I can't help myself but start hosting the show. Like that's the real joke of me taking over podcasts. It's just because like, you give me a detailed podcast, I'm like, I'll finish my answer, be like, ooh, your next one's good. Let's talk about this. Like I just keep going. And
that's why I didn't give you a show sheet or make one or anything.
You should not have a show sheet.
I have bullet points in case I forget something because like I'm like, Russ. His name's Russ. Okay. Which reminds me, I meant to bring this up earlier. I'm sure it's on people that don't know you, and even some people that do. You're Dynasty Outhouse. Like for the longest time, I didn't know your name was Russ.
That was almost on purpose for a while.
Yeah.
Well, real first, I don't know if you ever heard the story of where that awful name came from.
Well, that's what I was gonna get to. I
assumed, so I figured let's just jump into it.
Let's just jump in it.
With my very first Dynasty League, which I mean, I've been using Dynasty Outhouse for a little over 3 years. 3 years ago, July. So 3 years and 3 months. It was my very first Dynasty League group of guys, and back then the Twitter community was very different. Back then, it was really just the big names. That's all that really were. And then everyone else was just like spouting stuff and acting like they knew everything. And I'll just throw out there, a lot of people were just kind of dicks about it. And
yeah, you can't do that.
We were just like, all these people that just have fantasy something or dynasty something, they're so full of shit. So I just go, Dynasty full of shit, Dynasty Outhouse. And I created the tag. And at the beginning, it was like a borderline troll account. The five of us would go and answer polls, but like start contradicting ourselves. Like the biggest one was at the time was Sammy Watkins, because he was such a freaking hot topic at the time.
Yeah.
Sammy Watkins is always a hot topic. It doesn't even matter how irrelevant he really is anymore. Once week one happens, he's a hot topic again. But like I would go in there, and I've always been hashtag team Big Clemson wide receiver, so I was always a Sammy Watkins fan. So I go in there and say something good, and then like 45 minutes later, Dynasty Outhouse starts saying how, no, you know what? I don't like Sammy Watkins. Like we start like changing our minds over and over again. And that's like and of course, in pure fashion of something stupid like that, the other four guys lost interest. And I'm just like, I've been doing this with my personal Twitter account a little bit. Let me just use this. Why not? Back then, it was an oddity to have someone literally answer every trade poll. All you could do was tag at Dynasty Trades, which was Eric Bertzloff from the Tradecast, and Dynasty Trade Calculator. Back then, like those were the two people that just retweeted everything. So I sort of just, if I started this Twitter account now, I would just have no followers. It's just, I had that base at the beginning just because I sort of beat everyone to it. And it was no like brilliant stroke of brilliance or anything. It was, again, dumb luck, where it's just like, I like trade, so I'm going to talk to everyone about their trade. And that's just sort of how it started. And yeah, so Dynasty Outhouse absolutely started pretty much as a troll account. Everyone else got bored. So I'm just like, okay, I'll keep doing this. And I guess here we are. And when we started recording, I thought it would be really funny for no one to know my real name.
Yeah.
Like there was a little bit that was just like, do I want people to know who I actually am?
Right. I remember that.
Once you start talking to people, you can't really avoid it. I'm not going to be like that dude that wears a mask or never shares his video or something.
Yeah.
But like, so
yeah, everybody, I mean, people are like that because my real last name's not Kasem, but probably 90% of the people I talk to don't know that. And I'm like, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, don't change
it.
Yeah,
not Outhouse. Yeah, because
Kacey Kasem is a lot more realistic to think that someone was just like, we loved Kacey Kasem back in the day, let's name our kid after that, as opposed to let me name my son Outhouse.
I mean, weirder things, I guess, have happened. You're not a celebrity.
Yeah, the names. Hey, you don't know who my parents are.
I mean, I really don't. I barely know your name.
Come on, there's a lot of famous people from Brooklyn. I just said that's where they were from. You should be listening. Come on.
I should be, but this is my first show, so I'm in my head, Russ. I'm in my head.
Yeah, but it was really funny because when we first started recording, Brian and I told him just to call me Outhouse, like don't use my real name. And of course, Brian being Brian slipped up like 10,000 times, and I used to edit it out because he'd be like, "Okay, Russ, well, and I'm just." And I would literally just edit out the Russ part, and then I'm just like,
you're making this harder.
I was just like, this is stupid. The joke is it's over. If people want to call me Russ, that's fine. And to this day, people still I've been talking to for 3 years still call me Outhouse, even though they know exactly what my real name is, because I just think it's hilarious to call another human being Outhouse.
An Outhouse, yeah. I like it though. I did not know the story behind the name, which you would think I would, considering I've known you for a while. Don't really remember how or when. I've been on Twitter since 2008.
I know exactly when I first followed you.
Okay.
Actually, it was because of one of the very first episodes I listened of Dynasty Trades HQ. Shane read one of your questions and started saying how awesome you were. And he's like, you should be following Kacey, even though she doesn't play Dynasty.
I didn't play Dynasty. Okay.
And I literally went and followed you, and that is, I for some reason exactly remember that.
That's awesome. That is awesome. The whole community that we're in and we're a part of, being on Twitter since 2008, like I saw it come up and saw, I wasn't part of it until a little. I guess Her Fantasy Football was probably the first time I really got involved in Twitter, because that was the podcast I was listening to back in the day, Magic Man. And there was a bunch of, all the podcasts really sounded like you were in, underwater and everything was crackly, but it was awesome. So podcasts have come a long way. You guys all have Gabe Gearing doing your.
Oh God, yes. You're not legit unless you have a Gabe intro.
Yeah, he's going to come on. I'm going to talk to him about that. And then you also host, you're one of the hosts of Dynasty Game Night, right?
Yes. That was a little forceful. It was really because I remember the first time I was invited on. To be fair, I was actually only invited on once. The rest was me telling them I'm going to start hosting the show, which they were thrilled to have someone else do shows. Having to explain to my wife what exactly was happening. Mm-hmm. Oh, so you're going on a fantasy football podcast? Well, it's a game about fantasy football games. What? Just don't worry about it. I'll be back in an hour.
Yeah.
And then I went on and had a ridiculous amounts of fun and pretty much just started saying, all right, I'm going to start creating games now. And they're like, okay. They're like, do you want to host these games when you make them? I'm like, yes. And then all of a sudden, so there you go. I was a host of Dynasty Game Night. It was really just because I told them I wanted to. And they're like, yeah, we're feeling a little burned from it. You might as well make some.
Well, that's cool. I mean, you got to shoot your shot, right?
That's right.
Acting enough. Somebody.
It's really funny. Like outside of the fantasy football community, I am just terrified of everything. Like I can't imagine like me going into a job or going into like an interview and just being like, you should just give me this job. I'm good for this, But like here, I literally went to John Bosch and Matt Price, who I've never talked to before, and who I mean, Matt Price was doing like DLF. John Bosch was, Mr. Mad Scientist of creating leagues and all this stuff. Like they were names to me. Like I was this little guy, and then I'm just like, I'm going to start doing stuff on your show. And I'm like, did I say that? What? Yep. They said yes. Yeah, this works. Yeah, right. Nice. Awesome. Let's keep doing that.
Yeah. Well, I like, when I found out that you were, going to be part of the hosting crew, I was all excited about it. Then you guys had me come on, and I got excited because I don't know anything about Dynasty, and I don't know. You guys have to go listen to the
Most games you don't need to know a lot about Dynasty for Dynasty Game Night. It is just a lot of idiocy and fun. Like I tell everyone, it doesn't matter if you know the answer or not, just talk because you'll have fun.
Yeah.
The worst part of that is just sitting there. You won, didn't you?
I did win. At the very end, I guessed it on the money or something. And I was freaking out. You guys made my entire year. It was in a crappy 2020. Look, I'm over here.
There you go, right? You won Dynasty Game Night. I have yet to win also. So there you go.
But you're very good at coming up with the name game.
Oh, that name game. That's my bread and butter, whether I'm creating them or whether I'm playing it. That I know I could win that one.
I know you're a smart man. You came on my trivia and you were just cracking.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was so much fun.
You were just boom, boom, boom. I was like, man, Russ, get you on.
I know so much dumb shit for no reason, and that's the stuff that stays in my head.
Huh? You know what? It comes in handy though. You have such a personality that you can go on and talk with people about anything. You can make looking at paint dry an amazing time, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll still spend the time. I could talk about how I can't really tell what color it is because I have a red-green deficiency and colors look different to me. I can't match things, by the way. If you ever see me in a matching outfit, it's because either A, I got super lucky or my wife dressed me.
Well, I mean, you look fine every time I see you, so I don't know.
Well, man, I haven't put on real pants in 7 months.
I had to, and I'm wearing basketball shorts right now, so I know
I got pajama pants on.
Okay. Yeah, going back to work has been and
oh my God, that's right. You're in the office. That's awful.
I'm back in the office, yeah, but I sit there and I listen, like I said, listen to podcasts and stuff while I'm working, just trying to 1.5 speed where you don't really remember what people really sound like. Or I'm wow, Gabe can rap fast. Wow.
Oh my God. I remember the first time I heard Pop the Hood, which was the first time I was really into okay, I know Gabe now, and Gabe made this song. And the first time I really heard it, it was just on the podcast. I'm like, oh man, yeah. And then I watched the video of it because he made a video for it. And I'm like, is his video broken? Why is it yeah. But also let's turn this into a Gabe crush moment. It says something about how freaking good he is that it is amazing at both speeds.
Yeah, for real.
Right?
It doesn't get bad one speed or the other. It's
exactly
money.
Right. It is so, and man, every song of his has one line where it's just so damn good. The fact in the Trade Addicts one, he has you better turn the other cheek before I drop you like the beat. And I was just like, oh shit, son. Oh my God. Yeah. And he just did one for the Dynasty Junkies, another proud member of the Dynasty Outhouse podcast network. And just there's one line where it says there's no ish and commish, and just ish being the big open bar thing, and just that's such a baller line. It's just oh, that's so good, man. Ugh.
I mean, he did our theme song for the last podcast I was doing, and he said best frames in the game, and I was like, I'm gonna start using that as my tagline.
Damn straight, man. Just gotta watch out because there's fantasy frames already. But I've told you from the very beginning. Before, I think probably the first thing I ever said to you on Twitter was, "I'm jealous of your glasses."
Oh.
Well, I know you use Zenny, and for some reason I have never been able to see out of a pair of Zenny glasses.
Really?
I'd have to I'd have to upcharge enough to the point that they're the price of real glasses, and what that defeats the purpose.
Yeah, it works well for me. I always get the basic, and then a little anti-glare there and a little bit of this, and it's oh wow, a pair of glasses costs $15.
I know
compared to $200 before.
My wife does it too. The amount of cat-eyed tortoise shell glasses she has, I am insanely jealous.
You kind of have to have a signature thing, I guess, when you're trying to be noticed in the fantasy football community. Outhouse is fun, glasses are fun.
If you gotta go toilets. That's what I have never said before in my life. In people's
minds, I'm pretty sure people are I know Dynasty Outhouse. That's that outdoor toilet man.
That's that guy. That's that guy.
So you were talking about how you told your wife that you were going to go host a game show. Now, how do you handle all the podcasting you do and all the helping people out with trade advice and stuff, and commissioning all the leagues that you have and so on and so forth, and balance that out with the family?
Don't get me wrong. I absolutely have screwed it up before and got into that fight, and she was absolutely right. Everyone when they first start falls too deep. You just you get overwhelmed. Well, first of all, that's my personality. It's funny. I was just talking to Bobby Koch recently, who I talk about literally on every single podcast I am ever on. I say that guy's name. But he was talking about World of Warcraft, and man, I used to play Diablo 2, which, I mean, we're talking back in the 90s. And I got so into that game where who is now my wife was then my girlfriend almost left me over it. Like, that's how bad it was.
Yeah.
And like, we got into that same fight about fantasy football, like about a year into this stuff where it's just like, I'm always on my phone on Twitter. I'm always listening to podcasts. I'm recording 3-4 nights a week. And then, yeah, you literally get bitch slapped back into reality. Honestly, working from home has made this so much easier.
Yeah.
Like being able to record during lunch, I have like an hour after I am done working and before I have to deal with children. And that now that's where I get my editing in. Like, cause I used to bring my laptop to work and just edit during lunch. So like there's just times throughout the day, and my wife and I have an agreement where, first of all, no phones at dinner. And pretty much unless we are purposely choosing to sit and zone out with like the Food Network on, we try not to be on our phones as much. Like, it's like, is she gonna reach for her phone? I kind of want to check my Twitter stuff right now. Reach for your hun. And you start whispering like she's obsessed with Dr. Mario. I was like, Dr. Mario. Like to try and subliminally plant it into her brain. No, but like it's really what it comes down to. Like, everyone screws it up at first, and I absolutely did 100% and own it to the max. But really, if I wasn't working from home and had the time during the day, and in general, really just because my job is I have a computer job. I'm an accounts receivable supervisor. I do a lot of billing and reports and stuff like that, and it's not very hard. It's what it comes down to. So all my commish stuff, I do it during the day. You know, a lot of the trade offers I make and stuff I do during the day. And, you know, people DM me, I'll answer pretty much whenever, because that's a quick back and forth really. But all of my group chats are muted except for like 2. So like that was something that's so easy to get distracted by, especially if my phone like dinged every time I got a message in a group chat, my speaker would break. So like muting all of that, no notifications except for the DAP network chat and the DFPN network chat. So I think those are the only 2 group chats that I have notifications for.
That's great advice. Because like if you want to get into the fantasy football quote unquote industry, or you want to be a part of the Twitter community or whatever, you have to find a nice balance. You can't be, and I need to learn that too, because like we're going on vacation next month. So I'm like, let me get a couple extra people in here to interview.
Yeah, it took me a long time to be able to miss an episode of Trade Addicts. It honestly wasn't until like 6-8 months ago where I wasn't freaking out if I missed an episode. And it's not because I didn't trust Brian or anything. And it isn't even like the sense of control. It's like a sense of obligation almost, which makes it sound like it's not fun, but it absolutely is. But it's just like, it's like, no, like this is my show. People want to listen. Like they expect me to be there, and I can't let them down, which, don't get me wrong, I love every single person who listens to me, because God, I don't understand why people listen to me. But like, no, they don't own me. You know, I don't owe anyone anything. I'm not letting anybody down. Okay, maybe I am letting anybody down, but it doesn't necessarily affect my life. But really, like, it wasn't until somewhat recently where I was just like, no, okay, Brian could do this. He'll get a guest. And then I took it a step further, and I got Scott and Justin, who I call my B team, which just because it's a little sense of demeaning that they're below us, and but also just because, like, you know, they're always there as a step-in co-host if we need one. Because okay, I'll let out a little secret. Especially if you've never talked to someone before, you get kind of nervous just doing a one-on-one show. Like, just, like we talked about before, if there's no chemistry there, it's super awkward. Yeah. So it's always good to have that other person there where you're like, oh, hey, Scott Sidlow, by the way, and Justin Rogers, jump in, man. I need a buffer. I need someone here that, just in case this sucks, we can just go back and forth and just sort of like ignore the other person. So it took me, I guess, cultivating the people around me. And again, it had nothing to do with trust. It was all in my head, but it was gaining a level of comfortability with me, and I guess my real place. This is going to be like my place in the Twitter community, where it's not like I don't need to be there. If I were to literally delete Twitter right now, the world will go on. Like, I mean, that's just the reality of every aspect of the world. And once that sank in, it's like, it was literally a relief to be like, Brian, I'm just kind of tired. I'm going to sit this one out. I already talked to Scott. He's good to go. He's like, okay, yeah, cool, man. And I was just like,
yeah. A little bit of
yeah, so like
relief.
And again, like, it makes it seem like this is work. 0 episodes of the Trade Addicts podcast have ever felt like work. Like, it is pure joy podcasting to me, which is clearly why I have 6 of them. But like, it really just, like, that moment, which again, like, don't freak yourself out if you're just getting into this a couple of months in and you still have that feeling. It took me like a year and a half, 2 years to be like, no, it's cool. I can step back. I don't need to answer someone's DM within 3 minutes of them messaging me. I can get to it the next morning. And hey, if they lost out on that trade because I didn't answer them fast enough, sorry, bud. Like that, again, none of it's life or death. None of it is, hey, okay, if you want to put me on retainer and pay me, I will absolutely set up 3 notifications for your DM to make sure I answer you right away. But otherwise, it's just like, no, man, none of this is life or death. This is a game of a game. It's like whenever it's like, oh man, I'm so sorry I haven't answered your trade offer in 3 days. I'm like, dude, life is much more important than this. Don't worry about it, man. So I mean, like, really, you have to find that understanding first, because I didn't realize I was going overboard. It just sort of happened. And hopefully you have a person in your life to tell you and who won't just leave you right away. I mean, we had kids already at that point, so it was way too hard to leave me right away. Like, the amount of paperwork and after that, it wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah, it's just not worth it. Just let them do it. I know. I know. It's something that I need to work on as well. So it's great advice.
And yeah, it is absolutely nothing that just clicks. It is absolutely something you have to play with and find. And dude, come on. You're not getting into your computer.
You gotta sit my knee,
Be professional.
Old sports injury.
Like your hacky sacking days.
Yes, back in the day, hippie. Oh man. So you do a lot of stuff. I mean, you were just talking about the podcast network that you have. What made you decide you wanted to kind of veer off into that direction?
I still have no idea. It just sounded like a cool idea, to be honest. Really, like the Dummies did it. They did the Dummies Funhouse Podcast Network, the DFPN network that I talked about before. I'm like, that's a cool idea. And then really what it came down to is, like, the thing about the Trade Addicts podcast was anyone that was like, hey, can I come on your show? It was like, I'd never like researched it. I'd never like cared who came on the show. Like, oh, you don't have enough followers. Sorry. It was just, you want to come talk about football. Come on and talk about football. And like, now that Brian and I have sort of built a bit of an audience, why not use that to our advantage for our friends, pretty much? Like, because we knew, man, just like, it's pretty much like the Trade Addicts 3 podcast network, because Rocky and Dustin started the Junkies, and it's just like, they're starting this out after like a year of us telling them that they should do it. Let's put this together, let's throw it on with us and see if we can help them reach some people. That's really what it was always about. And I mean, one of the goals down the line was really to find another way to let people who don't necessarily have an audience, because I literally don't know how people found our podcast at all. I don't know. Okay, so you'll hear a lot of people say that they don't care about the numbers. They do it for the fun of it. If no one ever listened, they would do it anyway. I don't know how many people listen to the Trade Addicts podcast. I looked once. I've looked twice, and both of them were accidentally. And I remember it was after like maybe 10 or so episodes. Brian, how many people do you think listen to our show? And he's like, 50, higher. 75, higher. 200, 350 people. Oh my God. I mean, first of all, back then, like, that was the coolest thing ever, because, and I still stick to the fact that even if no one listened, we would still do it. But like, it was so weird that people somehow found our show and started listening. And then I made the joke about riding your coattails to fame. I think it might've been before we started actually recording, but I absolutely did this to Brian, because he was writing for DLF at the time and doing some rankings, and he just went to them. He's like, hey, we have a podcast. Do you want us on? Can we join your network? And they're like, okay. And then it was easier for people to find us. But the truth is, I've never really looked to see how many people listen to the show. Like, it's not something I've ever looked for. And that is also another way to sort of make this fun and not work, is if you can literally not care, then that it's not stressful. Like, I know there's a lot of people that are just like, how are we going to make this better? What are we going to do? And I'm like, your show's great. Why would you change anything? Well, we didn't gain any listeners in the past month. So what? Okay. There is a competitiveness piece of my brain that is missing. And that has been that way since I've been like an adolescent, where it was just like, all right, like, okay, cool, you beat me at a video game. That's nice. Like, I'm a Seahawks fan, and like, I'm supposed to hate the Niners, the Rams, and the Cardinals. Like, why would I? Dude, who cares? Like, I have a friend who's a 49ers fan, like to the point of like tattoo on his leg, 49ers fan, and he hates the Seahawks. And I'm just like, all right, I'm sorry, man. Okay. I don't know who hurt you with a Seahawks jersey on.
Yeah.
But like I've never been that person where it's just like I'm supposed to feel competitive about something and make me hate something else or anything like that. It's just that part of my brain has always been missing, so I never understood it. And I never expected to anyone listen to my podcast, so I would not be upset if no one ever did.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I don't honestly even remember what the original question was anymore because I've been rambling
I don't
for so
either.
long at this point.
Rambling is good. I mean, I'm trying to put this podcast out so people that were like me who wanted to figure out how to dip their toes in this kind of water, figure out how to make a name for themselves.
Okay, let me answer that question real fast then.
Okay.
Do you want to do a podcast? Just go do it. You want to start talking to people on Twitter? Literally just go do it. But part of the one article I wrote is when I first joined Twitter and I started reading people, I was literally afraid to like people's tweets because they would get a notification that @Russ Fisher liked their tweet. And who the hell is Russ Fisher to like their tweet? Why would they be bothered with this notification? That's what my brain was. Like that's how bad it was. And now I realize how stupid that is because literally you are on Twitter for other people to see what you're saying. And I even knew that at the time, but it's just like, it didn't matter. That's how like terrified of the world I was. But like, seriously, that's all it was. Like, well, I don't know how to podcast, so I don't know what to do. I Googled it twice before I plugged in my microphone. Literally, that's all I did.
Yeah. I mean, you hear it all the time, as long as you've got a computer and a microphone, just, put something out there. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter if you're just doing, live streams or if you're, doing YouTube videos, if you want to do a podcast or you just want to like chat it up every now and then. Like people love to talk about fantasy football and people love to listen to people talk about fantasy football. So there's a market there for that. So don't be, I've never done something on my own like this. And I know that I can count on somebody like Russ to help me out whenever, things go awry. Almost had to go out and buy a whole new computer just a minute ago. And Russ is like, calm down. So but I have, I think a lot of it is anxiety. The anxiety just gets to you. I have, So like having bad anxiety and then being able to do this, like I used to not be able to go on a podcast without being hammered.
Very drunk.
And now I can do it. I mean, it takes me a minute to like warm up to like talk to people.
That just does take a lot. Yeah. No, it does take a lot in general to feel comfortable talking. Like I said before, I would be terrified to go listen to what I sounded like in the first even 30 to 50 episodes. Like, because it's really funny. I used to listen. You have to when you first start. First of all, I was listening to my podcast because I used to actually edit, which is the dumbest thing in the world. But like, you have to listen to yourself because you don't really understand how you talk. Like you know how there's always that joke of like in a cartoon, like, or a TV show, someone picks up a microphone to a thing, like, is that my voice? Is that what I sound like? Like it wasn't, I legitimately didn't know it was me talking until I said something I remembered saying. Like the voice I hear in my head is literally nothing like my voice to the rest of the world. And that was like my first click of like, okay, I need to kind of figure this out. And when I first started, I put a lot of pauses in the middle of phrases for no reason whatsoever. And it got really, okay, I'm going to stop doing that just because it's that annoying. Like, again, I don't necessarily understand why people listen to us in the beginning, but like, you don't understand like a couple of verbal tics. Like now I know I still say, I mean, a lot. Like that is my clutch. Yeah. Like, I mean, like, so, like that kind of stuff. And you don't notice that until either you'll know there are people that will tell you the truth. Find those people, because someone just be like, no, dude, you're awesome. That's great. That doesn't help. You really want someone to be like, dude, you said 3 times in one sentence. I did not know that was physically possible. Like, like you need like if you're terrified, especially to listen to yourself, which you shouldn't, it is absolutely, at least in the beginning, you learn, like you don't know how bad you sound and you can't fix it until you know how bad you sound, I should say. And I absolutely didn't understand how weird of a cadence I had when I talk. And maybe that is part of the reason I just talk so damn fast now, is because I'm afraid of falling back into that. But I just write it off to like, that's what like TV New Jerseyans talk like. So I ride that wave. So like, yeah, like there's literally, like, if you want a podcast, just go podcast, man.
Yeah.
Like, again, like I said before, I don't know how people found ours. And it's not like I had, again, I'm terrified to talk to people, so I never asked anyone to guest. Brian got the first few people on. We had John Hogue come on in the beginning because, like I said, Brian was on he potted with those guys a couple of times on the Superflex Super Show. Maybe that's how some people found out about us. I have absolutely no idea because someone guested on our show, but yeah, just put it out there. You'll never know who's going to want to listen or who will listen or what it can start. Man, like I talk to these people in the Twitter world more than I talk to anyone I've met I've met through just being in person. I can say I've met a couple of the fantasy football people now because of the Midwest FF Expo, which didn't get to happen this year. Sadly.
I know.
Yeah, but like I talk to these people every single day. Like when I went to the expo, it's really funny. I told people at work I was going on vacation and like, oh, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to go meet some strange men I met on the internet. I mean, first of all, it's kind of the truth, but second of all, like you tell people like, oh no, my friends, like, oh, where'd you meet them? Oh, on Twitter.
Yeah.
But it's the absolute truth. Like,
true. I mean,
yeah, like weeks can go by and I don't talk fantasy football with a couple of people. We just talk about life and stuff like that. Or if like if that happens to lead into fantasy football, that's fine. It's like I podcast. Ever since working from home, I've been podcasting with Swags, Shane Swager, a lot, and like every once in a while, like we're talking for 40 minutes, like, oh shit, we were supposed to make a podcast, right? I kind of got to go back to work. Okay. Oh well, talk to you later, man. Like, that's awesome. We just start talking because, hey man, how's life going? How are things doing? Oh yeah, man, this happened. This, oh man, this, oh, I know that, man. And then all of a sudden it's just like, oh right, yeah, we were just sitting there and we kind of forgot to talk about football. Like you make legitimate friends out of all of this, and I absolutely did not expect that whatsoever jumping into this, but it is the thing I'm absolutely most grateful for.
I 100% agree. I mean, everybody that I've ever interacted with, for the most part, they've been extremely awesome people. Like, I've talked to people about things that happen in my life that I probably wouldn't even talk to my own family about. It's just like, that's just how it is, because you guys have been my friends for years. And I was really sad that got canceled this year too, because I was planning on going and meeting up and having a good time. And now I got to wait. But the community is great. And I was going to ask you about the guests that come on your show. I know you said that Brian got the first couple, and then you guys kind of just go from there. When you're deciding on, you said you don't care about followers, which is awesome. Is there anything like, have you ever kind of like reached out to somebody? I know you don't ask, but have you ever kind of like, come on?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I won't mind say I've never asked anybody, especially at times when I'm in a pinch. But at this, like now, I'll ask my friends and stuff like that. But back in the beginning, I was legitimately just terrified of asking someone because, like, I was joking before, like, who's that guy? Why would I want to talk to you? You're stupid. Your show is stupid. I never want to talk to you again. I'm going to make everyone I know hate you, which of course is not a reality, but still, that's welcome to the brain of a depressed and anxious person. I mean, that's the way we live. But I honestly don't really remember like asking people that I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean,
there was every once in a while I would literally just throw it on Twitter, who wants to go on a podcast, and that's awesome. How I got lists of people. And like, if you're listening to this, which means you're subscribed to the DAP network, which means I love you anyway. So I'll say I've literally never said no to anybody who's asked to be on my show. Literally, so it's just saying those words out loud. Like I'm just waiting for my DMs.
You're gonna have so many people that are
good. I don't have to go looking for guests ever again. But like seriously, like people are ambitious and people like talking and people are not afraid of people. I have a lot of people that just either reach out like, "Hey Russ, love your show. Any chance I can get on?" Yeah, man.
Sure.
Like I remember Stompy and Aton before Dynasty Diagnostic, like both of them, like I was one of their first shows they were on because they were just like, look, I'm trying to break into this. Can I come on? Absolutely. Yeah, why not? And let's just face it, I'm far too lazy to research these people. I don't care. Like they want to talk fantasy football, I'll talk fantasy football with you. And let's be honest, not even if we try our hardest every single show, not show is going to be great. So if a show happens to go bad because we have a bad guest on, sorry.
It happens. It's part of life. I mean, you watch late night TV shows or whatever, talk shows and stuff, and you can tell when interview's going kind of awry and when it's kind of going off the tracks. And you know what? It's just part of life. People aren't always going to get along, or people aren't always going to converse nice.
Yeah.
But as long as you're like respectful and you're not a complete dick, then I mean, you just
don't be a
roll with
dick. That's a motto in life.
Don't be a dick.
Like, and I got to be honest. Like I've absolutely been bad in guest spots before, especially in the beginning, and just because like you're off some nights. Like if you listen to the Trade Addicts podcast, towards the end of the show, like I start to lose words, and it's literally it's a real thing that happens to me where I have to struggle to pull a word out, and I laugh it off and everything, but it's a little real, and it gets worse as I get tired. Clearly, because I mean, again, that's the joke on the show, but that's really what happens. Like I start losing words. I'm like, it's got to be after 10:45. Like, yep, 11:15, dude, we got to stop this soon. Like, and just like there's sometimes where it just sort of happens, and I stutter a lot, and sometimes like, man, like I'm really bad at thinking examples on the spot. Sometimes where it's just like I could talk trades all day, every day. Give me a trade, I could talk about it. But someone's like, who would you trade for this guy? Like so and it's not against any individual person if it's ever a bad spot on a show. Like, again, like I joke again because it's a defense mechanism for having ridiculously low self-esteem where I'll say I don't know what I'm talking about, or I say I'm bad at this and all that stuff. I like to think I'm already at least pretty good at this point, but I've absolutely done bad spots. I've been bad on shows. I can't remember who it was anymore. It was on Trade Addicts, and like I literally apologized after the show. I was just like, I was not on my game, and I'm sorry that you came, like, because I think it was someone who was like, I love your show, can I come on? And I was just like, I know, we were terrible, but we were terrible with you on purpose. I think, no, that was because you backed Brian's decision for his all black Steelers jerseys over the powder blues, I think.
I'm glad you can remember that far back.
Oh my God, we still fight about that.
That was fun. That was real fun.
Yeah, that was... one of the only good ideas Brian ever had was us ranking jerseys. And that was 2 years ago. Come on, Brian, come up with another good one. But like it's the honest truth where it could just be someone's off their game there one day. It's going to happen. And like I say with trades, the only way to fix a bad trade is to make another one. If you were bad on a podcast, go do another one. It's like there's no reason to ever be defeated. There's no reason to ever just be like, oh, I suck, I'm going to walk away. You do this because it's fun. I mean, if you're one of those people that are just like, I need to break into the industry and do this for money, I have no real advice for you, because my advice is usually can be summed up by #YOLO. Just fucking go for it. Like, which I should have asked if this was a cursing podcast before.
I'm cool with it. This is me. Yes, it's good. You can curse.
All right. I'm not used to getting to curse on podcasts, so fuck.
I mean,
don't know why I decided that. I still don't know why we decided to do that on Trade Addicts, but we stick to it at this point. Show. I guess, right? Usually because my kids would start running in because I used to record in the dining room.
See, I'm on kids, so dogs don't care if I cuss. They're used to it.
Oh man, yesterday's show, we were about to get started. We had Eitan Mozia on last night, or whenever, 10-5's episode of, because I have no idea when this is actually going to come out, so I don't want to say yesterday and it be 3 weeks from now, you slow editor. Come on, man.
That's me.
And I'm like, okay, you ready to go? And his dog started barking like right on cue. I'm like, the dogs are ready. Let's go. So, hey man, me and dogs get along.
I swear, every time I hear a dog in the background of a podcast, I'm like, yes, those people.
Oh no, and they happens when I'm sure it happens when you were on, and we are absolutely a pet and child friendly podcast. Like we are here for life, and that is part of life. Absolutely,
that's part of life.
My son has absolutely said hi a couple of times on the show. My daughter was always too afraid, though she'd probably just start singing like I do now half the time. But back in the day, she used to be terrified of microphones and stuff like that. But like it's really, if you're doing this for fun, just have fun. That's all I could ever say. Don't be intimidated. I remember being scared of I remember the show too, and I'll say it out loud anyway, even though it's like embarrassing now. It was Peter Howard and Tyler Gunther were on one show, and Brian was sick, so he was out. So it was just the two of them. And I was insanely intimidated by the two of them. And now to say I'm intimidated by Peter Howard and Tyler Gunther is hilarious to say out loud. But like, I mean, when you stop and think about it, Peter's so damn smart. And
God, he is so smart.
And he has that wonderful Kentucky accent. And like Tyler started DHH. That's so damn cool.
That's crazy. Yep.
And then like we're talking talking about having bad episodes. That was one of the most fun shows I've ever done. People have called it unlistenable. Because the three of us are pretty ADD out there, and we could not stay on track, and we just kept rambling. It was so much fun, though.
Those are the best kinds of podcasts, especially when like you're listening to them and it's a group of people that you really enjoy. When you can just hear them shoot the shit, it's great.
Yeah, and that moment is when it really clicked to me. Like, people, everyone's just people. You know, like I remember I met Ryan McDowell last year at the Midwest FF Expo, and it was just like, oh, hey, I've seen your face now. You're real. That's cool, because he used to email me and I'd be terrified.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but like it's really this wonderful realization that everyone's just people. So why not have fun? That's what we're here for. We're playing a game. You're playing it for fun. Mostly, I hope. Like, winning money is great sometimes. But like Trade Addicts Leagues are $42. Because 42 is the ultimate answer to the life, the universe, and everything. The question to life, the universe, and everything. Go read or watch The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy if you don't get it, because both the book and the movie are fantastic. And because I want it to be cheap, and I still wanted to donate money to charity. Every league, except for, I thought of it after TA1, and I still can't get the vote to pass, which kind of annoys me, to be honest. But so every league besides TA1, hopefully they're listening and they'll feel guilty about it, donates to charity. So I bumped it up a little bit. But like the point of those leagues is literally to do stuff you wouldn't normally do. Make stupid trades, have fun, build your team in another way, because that's what I'm here for. Like, I'm here for all of this to be fun. And if I can impress that on other people and make other people have fun, that's why I got into the community. That's why, like, I never in my life, I don't think I'm doing this as a living or anything. Don't get me wrong. If you're listening and you want me to do this for a living, I will. Dynasty Outhouse at gmail.com. Hit me up. But but seriously, like, that's all this was ever about. So it's silly to take this too seriously. And that goes for the game of fantasy football and for podcasting or for Twitter, any of that stuff. Just taking it too seriously just is a bummer. So if you want to do it, go do it, which is the question you asked me like 20 minutes ago.
Well, no, because your insight's great, because like starting out doing this and listening to you and hearing you say stuff that I'm like, that went through my mind too. Like during this entire podcast, I've probably been like, I'm not as fun as I usually am because blah, blah, blah. But you know what?
You are literally always fun.
Oh, okay. I
know I see how much like me you are. Just take the damn compliment.
I know.
Take it.
It's crazy. Except for I think I have the competitive nature that you're missing from your brain. So I'm one of those people that's like, I got to do this 10 times harder and 10 times faster and get this out there and do this and that. And it's like, you can have time to breathe.
Yeah. That's what I do. I breathe.
You do
sometimes a little too fast because I get way too anxious about it, but you know.
But I mean, you got it down, and you know what? Something else that you do is you care about people's fantasy football teams.
I absolutely care about people's fantasy football team, which is my pinned tweet still to this day.
I love it. I love that. I love the fact that you're inviting people to like come talk to me. You know, like. Well,
first of all, like people like literally made T-shirts like no one cares about your fantasy football team. Then why are you doing this?
Yeah, right.
Like it was such a weird concept to me. Yeah. So I threw that out there, and then I'm like, you know what? I just learned what a pinned tweet is, so I'm going to make this my pinned tweet because I didn't know how Twitter was, and like it legitimately makes me smile to see people like that tweet now. Like, because that means someone randomly fell into my profile and saw that, and hopefully it meant something. Like maybe it's like, yes, nice, because I love talking fantasy football. Here is a dude that clearly also loves talking fantasy football, and that's exactly what I am. That dude that loves talking fantasy football.
I love it. I like when I was like, I don't usually go to like people's straight on Twitter pages. I like just follow what's being retweeted and stuff. But like, clicked on your profile just to see what you had going on, because you know I'm a stalker. And then you know you got that pinned tweet still there, so I think that's just super rad.
You can stalk me any day you want. Don't worry about it. It's not stalking if I allow it.
That's true. Maybe I'll stalk you in our Trade Addicts 7 and throw some.
I mean, do that, but there's one freaking league where I have a co-owner I have to actually.
Yeah, well, you know, how many Trade Addicts leagues are there?
8.
There are 8. Are you playing any more?
I don't know. I am so proud of myself for only making 1 this year, because I did 3, 4. No, 3 the first. Yes, 4 the first year, 3 the second year, and then I created 8 this year. That was so dumb. Oh my god, I should have spaced it out. I got so over. Like I remember I had to beg people to join the first 2.
That's crazy. I always see people tweeting at you.
Right? It's so weird to think. Like I accidentally clicked on my profile and saw how many Twitter followers I had. I like started laughing. But like, yeah, I literally begged people to join the first two. Like, no, really, it's gonna be awesome. I promise it'll be fun. Let's do it. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna send you the invite. You think about it. And then 3 came out. I'm like, I can't remember who it was anymore. But someone was like, I'm looking for a new league. I'm like, I'll create a new league. All right. So I made 3. I threw the tweet out and I got more than 12 people. And I'm just like, oh, I'll make 3 and 4. Sure. And then after that, once the year passed and 5 came along, it's like, I literally had to have a list of people. Over 200 people DM'd me about joining Trade Addicts 8.
That's
the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like,
wow.
I know. And just to put it out there, okay, TA 6 and 7 don't count. They really shouldn't be called Trade Addicts Leagues because those were really leagues I made for friends I wanted to play with.
Well, like, let me have that title, please. I want to say.
No, the title's not going away. It's far too late for that. But like, because the thing about the rules of Trade Addicts Leagues are no one can be in more than one except for me and Brian, and it's random. Like, I don't choose. That's a lie. Maybe I'll choose one person, but that's really it. Like, just pretty much I said that because like I made Trade Addicts 3 for one person. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll pick one person per league. And everything else, like I literally threw that 197 people into a randomizer and asked the first 9 people. That's how I picked Trade Addicts 8. I got lucky. I just so happen to know a few of them at this point. I know way too many people because I'm on Twitter way too much. But like, yeah, like, and it's amazing. I will talk to people about commissioning leagues, because that sounded weird when I said it for some reason. And everyone's like, no, if someone trades away their future first, you got to have them pay for it because they're just going to destroy their team and drop, or this guy's a bad owner. Like, I have gotten so damn lucky. It's insane that how good of these owners I have, that it's just like the coolest thing ever. And because of my low self-esteem, I'd say no, it's absolutely because those are the I'm so awesome. I bring in awesome people, and that's exactly what it is. And you're friends with me, so clearly it works.
Oh yes,
yeah. No, so like, yeah, the Trade Addicts Leagues were super accident. It was really me making a league that at first I tried to be cute about it, and I get the question a lot, like, how do you make boring leagues active? There's literally no way. And I tried. Like, I was trying to put out all these rules and I was thinking of all of these fancy ways to make people trade, but it really came down to getting the right people. I named my league Trade Addicts Leagues to put the vibe out there of this is what we're here for. You know, like, this is why I'm creating this league. If you're this kind of person, join in. And then once 3 came around, I have a spiel I go through at this point where I'm like, a lot of the stuff I've said already, this league is for fun. League is cheap, so you can do stuff, you can trade that you wouldn't normally trade, do all of that stuff. And this is just for fun. And if your response is going to be, well, winning is fun, I'm sorry, this isn't the league for you.
Yeah, if that was the case, I don't think I'd be playing fantasy football. I can't win.
I commish 15-ish leagues. I've been playing fantasy football since about 2005. Yeah. I've never won a league I've run.
Oh wow! Did you start playing redraft first, and then?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I know a couple of people that are like, huh?
Oh my god, some people. Some people. The first fantasy football league they played in was salary cap, contract, IDP. Like, no. I started straight up 8-team redraft. You know. 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a tight end, and that's it. Kicker defense, of course.
Yes, kicker and defense have to include that.
So I did that for a very, very long time, and I used to be the big kid on the block because I had 3 leagues. Like, how could you handle 3 leagues? That's insane.
Yep.
Put a 0 at the end of that, and that's what I was in at one point.
Wow.
Yeah, thankfully I trimmed down. I'm in like 28 now. Stupid COVID ruined me. But I started with redraft, and the second I got into football in 2004. To be honest, I was a big hockey fan, and hockey kept going on strike in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I just got fed up with it. And then my friend just goes, "You need to play this game," and it hands me a copy of ESPN NFL 2K5 with Terrell Owens like doing like the layup on the cover and in the Eagles jersey, and I'm like, okay, yeah, let's play. I love football. Oh my god. And it's been hell ever since. So yeah, redraft for a very long time. And my first rookie draft was 2016 players. So that was the first year I played. So my first intro into rookie drafts was drafting Corey Coleman, Josh Doxson.
Oh.
Thankfully, I didn't draft Laquan Treadwell, but still, my track record of that draft should have just turned me off.
But that's how it is.
Yeah.
That's how it is. I swear, like, you guys all got me into playing Dynasty. I was like, I'm not in a lot of the leagues that I was in when I haven't been playing Dynasty a lot, but you want to get with the right people. And
yes,
now that I'm with the right people, I know how most of the leagues, there's a couple leagues I probably could cut back on, but they're like,
yeah, my problem is I'm in like 28 leagues and I like all of them.
Yeah. See?
And that's another thing. If you want to jump into Dynasty, just jump the hell in.
Yeah.
Like you went into that Origins League, which was a great idea.
But
in practice, not so much. Like Trade Addicts Leagues, like I said, they're very simplistic. There's no special rules to them. They're 12 team, super flex, PPR, tight end premium. And except for Trade Addicts 1, I got the vote in for points for return yardage, because that's just something I'd never had before. And I'm like, let's try that. And I liked it, so I kept going. There's nothing special about those leagues, but a lot of times it's definitely been at least one or two people's first Dynasty league, but it was a lot of people's first Superflex league. Just have the interest. That's all that matters. And if you go in at least thinking you're going to bomb, then all the better. I won the first league I joined purely by accident. I got super lucky. Like, I inherited a team. The first team I took was an orphan, and I inherited a team with, here's some fun names that people probably don't even remember anymore. Jordan Matthews and Dante Moncrief. I guess Moncrief was around last year, but like these guys were freaking Dynasty darlings.
Yeah, they were
when they first came out. And at the time, I had no idea what a draft pick was worth. So I traded Jordan Matthews, a 2016 and 2017 first, for Mike Evans. And that's when Mike Evans was the wide receiver 3. Nice, right? Yeah. Like, it was a pure accident. And then I traded Dante Moncrief in a second for Doug Baldwin when Doug Baldwin was the wide receiver 8. Michael Floyd and a second for David Johnson and a third.
Wow.
And David Johnson was David Johnson. And I walked backwards into a championship that year.
That's awesome.
Like, I did not do any of that on purpose. Pure luck.
Yeah.
Michael Floyd was going to be the next Larry Fitzgerald, because back in 2016, Larry Fitzgerald was going to retire,
Yeah, right.
Right. Whoops. So, it was a complete and utter accident. Like I said, thinking back that I didn't want to join for like a full season, where I felt the need I had to listen to podcasts and read first, is like the dumbest thing in the world. Go find one person you want to, how'd I join my first league? Like I said, the only website I knew was RotoViz. It was on the forums. I found someone that said orphan. I waited 2 days to build up the guts to actually reply. And I got it. And I was the only person to reply. They let me in, and it was a group of awesome people. And like I said before, straight to hell from there.
Yeah. I mean, it took me forever. Like, I was so anti-Dynasty. It was like, I don't want to, because I don't like change, and I don't the anxiety thing again.
You think it's so much more work than it really is.
Yeah.
Like, when you're just doing redraft, you're like, it's your team the whole year, and you have to do the same team next year. Oh my God, how do you do that? And then now you're just like, only 6 teams? I can't handle this. This is boring.
It's the draft part that gets me. I'm like, okay, I'll join your league, because the draft is my, it's most people's favorite part. But so that's how I end up in so many leagues. It's just because, I wanted to draft. Well, and then people are like, well, just go do best ball, or just go,
just go do some best balls or something. At this point, I'm a sucker for the person asking.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you want to join a league? Who's in it?
Yeah. I said, I said no, I didn't want to be in anymore, but now you twist my arm. You're like, hey, I got this league with all these people. Like, let me name drop them real quick.
Damn straight. Whatever gets people in that I want in my leagues, I'll do it.
Yeah. I'm like, fine. You twisted my arm. I'll do it. But in the back of my head, I'm like,
you were saying yes already. But
yeah. Before we end our conversation, I know it's really sad to say bye, but I also know that, like, you're a tired man. You're in a different time zone. Everybody's in a different time zone than me.
Hey, man, it's only 10:18. I got like another half hour before I start losing it.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question, and then you can answer it, and, like you said, ramble if you want.
It's going to happen anyway.
No, I'm just trying to think, like, what? Well, here's the first question. I got 2 questions. 1, why are you so damn likable?
Am I?
I feel like everybody, I mean, when I talk to people, it seems like your name comes up a lot as, like,
pure accident. I don't know.
Fantasy.
If I've met them in real person, it's because I'm a hugger.
Yeah.
That is absolutely the truth.
awesome.
Like, and it's really funny. The GIF I always use for hugging, it's that one bear like choke holding the other one, because I always say I suffocate people with attention, because once I know someone really likes me, I cling to them, because I have a huge fear of feeling included, but I'm really not. So it takes me forever to actually feel like I'm included. So once I am, I'm never letting go.
That's awesome, though.
But yeah, I like, honestly, I don't know. Like, it's really weird. Like, I never, like, you were before, like, you're like, sorry for being a pain about asking all these questions. Like, there was what was a pain? I don't understand. I'm talking about something
to myself, and I gotta have other people agree with.
I'm talking about something I enjoy doing. Why is this a problem? Why do you think? And it's like editing podcasts. Like everyone's like, so like, oh my god, thank you so much. And I'm like, takes me half an hour, man. I scroll through and I get rid of gaps, because that's all you should freaking do on a fantasy football podcast. I unfortunately take out curse words because I put that on myself. I used to delete ums. I know this sound wave form of Brian's at this point. I can see it. And I used to take them out every once in a while. I don't even bother doing that anymore. The one thing I do edit out is a lot of people, and me included, smack their lips before they start talking, and that annoys the shit out of me when I'm listening. So if I and you could see the little spike right before a word, so sometimes I try and get rid of that, but I don't catch it every single time. And yes, it is absolutely something I do as well. But now that you heard it, you're not going to be able to unhear it. It's going to drive you crazy also for people that don't take it out. I'm not alone anymore.
So many podcasts, I'm going to hear that. I'm going to be like, damn you, Russ, why?
But seriously, like, zero work goes into editing. It's mindless, because I don't edit for content. I've never, the only time I've ever edited for content is if someone's internet keeps giving out. Like that show you were on, Trade Addicts, like 3 weeks ago, and your internet kicked out, and I literally didn't change anything. I got rid of the gap and kept it going. Like, I mean, I don't even
roll with the punches.
Yeah, like, I don't even try and be like, okay, what were we talking about? Why don't you go back and start from here? Screw that noise. Like, I literally like, okay, your internet sucks, so we're just gonna keep going.
We're just gonna keep going. Yeah, exactly. So that's another great piece of advice. Is,
don't worry about it. But like I guess it's really just the fact that I love all this stuff so much, and maybe I just am more willing to give up time that I would normally be doing nothing anyway to do it. Like, oh, like you spend your time doing this. I'm like, I have that hour before I have my kids after work where I am literally watching cartoons and playing games on my phone. By the way, My Hero Academia is freaking amazing if you're into anime. I'm on the new season of that right now, and before that was Legend of Korra, the sequel to Avatar, The Last Airbender. Nickelodeon. Oh my god, go to Netflix and watch both of those. They're so good.
Okay, I'll tell my wife we have new shows to watch. I'm sure she'll be so happy.
They're oh my god, they're so good. So like, or I'm doing it during lunch. I'm sitting there these days shoveling a salad in my face, unfortunately, because that's how boring I'm old and I have to eat a little healthier. Like, what's the, like, to me, it's no big deal. It doesn't matter at all. But like, everyone's like so thankful for it. And I'm like, I guess that's the only reason, like, not to say the only reason, I guess I'm a nice person, but like, like, to me, it's just like, everyone's like, oh, thank you so much. I'm like, I didn't think it was a deal. Okay. Yeah, sure. No problem, man. So I don't know why I'm likable. Maybe just because I'm willing to do things for people. I'll put that out there.
We're just not used to having people do things for us. So when we find the one person that will, like, oh, cuddles, hugs.
Because, yes, the amount of times I've said my low self-esteem, anxiety, depression, I don't necessarily always think I'm likable. So the fact that other people do think that is still weird.
Yeah, well, you're likable, at least to me. And
that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. Exactly. Exactly. All right. I really don't want to leave you, but sometimes I have to. And then I see you again and it's all good. But before I leave you, or you leave me, or whatever.
I'm recording this, so you're leaving me.
You're recording. What? Before I leave you, I got him over here. Can you tell me, because I forgot to hit on this earlier, so I want to hit on it now. So you have the FF pod shirts.
Yes.
Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody just a little bit about all of that? Can you remember everything?
I can't remember everything on them. ffpodshirts.storeenvy.com is pretty much a shop for anyone that has been like, I want to sell some shirts for my podcast, but I don't know how to do it, and I don't really want to. I'll do it. It's another thing that people think I'm nice, where it literally just takes 5 clicks to set up. Let's see. Well, there's all the DAP network stuff, Trade Addicts, Fantasy Timeline, Dynasty Junkies. We have Kacey's shirt up there, which is our best-selling shirt. Superflex Super Show, Dynasty Diagnostic, Devi Marketplace, Top Shelf DFF. I just made Sal Stefanelli his podcast. This is a podcast I do. I put a sticker up there for him. Mandrew NFL. Andrew Harbaugh. I love that dude. His logo is like the outline of his hair and beard, and I freaking love it.
Dude,
So
I wanted something like that for me too, but I was like, damn it.
Yeah. Well, you don't have a beard.
No, I have glasses and a hat. That'll work.
Hey, that's your shirt. There you go. Yeah. So a mug and sticker with his hair and beard on it, which is hilarious and awesome. And I mean, that's all the podcast kind of stuff. We also, if somehow someone listening doesn't know, recently James Cutillo at James the Brain passed away suddenly. On FF Pod shirts, we have a collection of stuff for James, in honor of James, really, where it's the Brainiacs, because his last tweet was actually a quote tweet of, if you had a team, what would your team name be? And his response was the Brainiacs. So there's a there's a t-shirt, I should say, with a picture of him with RIP and all the stuff that he was into. There's a DLF, Superflex Super Show, Browns, because he was a Browns fan, and Wisconsin, because he was a big Wisconsin guy. And this is the Brainiacs exclamation point, because that was the last tweet. And then if you're feel weird about wearing a shirt with a dude's face on it, there's one that just says hashtag the Brainiacs. And because I'm me, I made a sticker. I'm going to need a new laptop to fit my stickers soon. And every penny we get from that store goes to charity. The stuff in the James the Brain collection goes straight to his family. So far, we have raised $180 for the Cutillo family.
Awesome.
And still randomly getting a couple of orders, so I haven't sent it in yet. So if you're listening to this for the first time, hearing about it, if you want to help, what I call one of our brothers, his family.
Go over there. I need to get on that. So yeah, don't send those orders out yet. I'll be there. I'll be on right after this.
And for the rest of the store, what we used to just donate it all to Fantasy Cares, but Scott is a selfish jerk, and
Yes.
Scott Fish doesn't give the link out anymore. So what we do is every 2 months we pick a different charity. Last 2 months it was what month we're in? So September and October is Operation Underground Railroad, which is a charity to help fight human trafficking. And the 2 months before that, we did the Colorectal Colon Cancer Alliance. So we're taking turns every 2 months picking a charity to go to. So like 0 pennies comes back to us on that. It is all straight donated, mostly just because we think it's cool as hell that anyone would want to wear something or put a sticker or drink from a mug with our stupid show on it. So it's just, another way we play with so much disposable money in this game, especially me, who's in 28 leagues, where, my most expensive league, my freaking redraft leagues are my most expensive leagues, but Dynasty, my most expensive league, is $50. But still, I mean, times 28, that's a lot of money. And don't get me wrong, I win that back every year.
Yeah,
I do not.
Expert.
One year I profited $16, and I went to my wife like, I won big, baby, I won. Oh yeah, what'd you win? $16. She literally just like rolled her eyes and turned away from me. Like we play with such stupid money of ours, where it's just like, why not do good with it? And clearly we have like Scott Fish and John Bosch and all of those guys to thank for that. Like I remember hearing that idea and just be like, yes, why haven't we been doing that forever?
Right?
Like
why was this a new concept?
It was so weird that, and then it's just like, it was the most obvious thing in the world. So yeah, every single league, has a charity aspect to it, except for Trade Addicts one. You selfish jerks.
You guys hear that? If you're listening to this Trade Addicts one,
seriously.
Have your names down. That's all
there you go. This is an indictment on you as a person. So, and everything from that shop is donated straight to charity, again, just because we think it's cool as hell that anyone would actually want that in the first place, that we don't need to make the $2 per t-shirt, and I'm not going to charge $35 for me to actually make real money on it anyway. So the shirts are pretty cheap, and it's because we don't make much profit, and we don't keep it anyway.
Well, I think that's one of the coolest things that you guys do, is like that you have going, is that because people are out there trying to make a buck or two, and and it's good to see the charity aspect of it,
Yeah, again, every single spec of this is about fun. For me,
fun.
the playing the game, the podcasting, again, even making stupid shirts. I still have the one shirt that is literally an inside joke that 3 people know. Shane Manila went to say, Jesus bless your crops, except he said, Jesus bless your crotches. And I there's a shirt in that store with fancy gold lettering that says, Jesus bless your crotches, and has a picture of like wheat on it. Like
That's
literally
awesome.
there was like three
yeah.
or 4 people on that podcast who get that joke, and yeah, Shane, he bought one, but like I haven't taken it down because it's just too damn funny to me. Like, so like that's really, it's all just, it's, I hope everyone isn't rolling their eyes the amount of times I've said that, and I hope they agree with it, because that's what this should be. That's what being a part of this should be. And like it's funny, like every podcast I'm on, they'll be like, what's your parting words? What would you say to someone just starting? What would you say to yourself when you were first starting? Care less. Like that's really what it is. Like,
oh my gosh, when you stop caring as much, like good things happen. It's when you're sitting there worrying about everything.
And especially like the most like conflicting answer to a question I get is, how do you handle being in so many leagues? And the answer is, you have to care less about it. You have to be less competitive. Like the amount of Calvin Ridley, which, oh my God, he bageled, which hurt my soul. But Calvin Ridley, Hayden Hurst, frickin' Robert frickin' Tunyon, like the amount of both sides of me playing him and playing against these guys.
Yeah,
I would not be able to calculate where it mattered or not, where it's just like, oh, okay, then let me just watch this football. Okay, I didn't watch last night because I was recording, but like the point is, like, it's like a sigh of relief to sit back and enjoy football, because you're not like, no, why did that guy score? I'm playing against him. I have no idea who the hell I'm playing against every week. Like, it doesn't matter, because I know unless it's Christian McCaffrey, I have that guy on my team, because I own 0 Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I've got a couple guys like that. I'm the same way when it comes to leagues. I think when I was in less leagues and when I was just in redraft was where I like.
Yep, you have
oh my God,
3 tabs open on your laptop,
and you're like, my life is over if I lose because
the Thursday night tilts, yeah,
like that. And it's like once you're in this many, like I woke up this morning and found out I won in one league by 0.02.
Oh my God, the trash talking I would have done.
Well, I was just like, wow. I went to bed last night like an old person, like early. And
oh my God, I do not make it to the end of my days anymore.
It's not happening. I like it. Yeah. I mean, even that Cowboys game. Okay, first of all, we were going to watch Seattle Seahawks game, Cowboys game, and live stream it, but you didn't want to see that, so that's probably why my computer stopped working. Well, Russ, I really love talking to you, and
let's just keep going. Who cares that it's been it hasn't actually been an hour and a half because I hit record way too early.
Keep going. I just, I like to eat. Okay, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God, it's 9:30 for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I haven't had dinner yet.
Oh my, you're such a young person. What are you talking about?
No,
I ate dinner at like 6.
We found out that I'm not that much younger than you are. So.
You definitely acted. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, I gotta.
Okay, yeah, sometimes it's a little bit of a problem. I get it.
It's a problem, No, okay. You know what? I could talk to you for a while. Here's a question about podcasts. Do you think that there should be a time limit, like that you go look at the clock and you're like, okay, it's time to wind this down?
I hell hope not, because the podcast I put out today was 1 hour and 55 minutes.
Hey, you know what? You can rewind, fast forward, whatever.
Yeah, like first of all, I have shows. I have not listened to every single episode of every show. That's the best way. That's another way of putting it. Like, especially during the season, like there's just one week where you're so damn busy, you don't get to listen to pods, and you can't listen to a week-old pod like during the season. No. It doesn't make sense anymore. And like, so if someone's gonna skip it, they're gonna skip it. That's on them. Yeah. But like, if I like listening to these people talk, I want to listen to them talk. Right. Like me, Brian Aton, and I, because that is how you speak English. We were just having so much damn fun talking last night. I wasn't going to rush it. I wasn't going to stop it. Yeah. Like, okay, yeah. Well, the format of our show is news. We make amends to people that we got wrong for the week or for the season, therefore. Keep trades, buys. And then we go over a couple of Trade Addicts trades. And if there's any listener questions, man, like by the time we got halfway through, like the third part of it, we're like 1 hour and 15 in. And I'm just like, okay, I'll skip my buy. Let's just go. You go. like, that's something I'll do. Like I will sacrifice like one or two of the guys I have on my list. I wouldn't make I wouldn't skip over someone else's, but I'll easily, if like I don't feel like I absolutely need to talk about my guy, I'll skip over that. But I would never rush a conversation. Like that's what I like about podcasts. Like the worst thing a podcast can be to me is boring. Like I don't care how smart the information is. If I zone out because I don't care what this person's saying, what's the good of it? So like I am here for, for Shane making old jokes on Sipes than all the dad jokes that Tyler Gunther and ex Superflex Super Show Travis the Beard would make. Like it's the personalities we listen, at least it's the personalities we listen for.
Yeah.
Like, so that's the point. So to me, it would be silly to be like, no, that's too long. I'm just not going to listen. I don't want to hear you guys talk. No, I want to hear you talk. And especially because I'm listening to like the guys on the DAP network, the Timeline and the Junkies, those show could be 3 hours and I'll sit and listen to them because they're my guys. I love those guys. I will sit and listen to them talk. I talk to them about their show while I'm listening to it. Like, I get it. There are people that listen to a lot of podcasts. There are people that just don't have a lot of time. So I would absolutely get you being like, dude, 1:55, I just can't. And I'm sorry if that is you. I'm sorry if you skipped over that show because we had a hell of a lot of fun. But like, I get it. I will never in my life be upset that someone didn't listen to my show. Like, let's just like that's just the way it is. Where it's just like, if you can't listen, if you don't listen, that's fine. You don't need to listen to what I have to say, or just, ask me if you feel like really just needing to know. So to me, time never really mattered. It's if the show is good, let it keep going. Why stop fun? Because then you're just like, oh, that was good.
Good. And we could have kept going. We could have broken it down into 2 episodes if we really had to. Not time.
This one. Let's break this down into 2.
I mean, we can break this one down into 2. It'll give, when I'm on vacation, it's nice to have extra stuff. Or I can find those old episodes of my last podcast and put them out as.
My Cam Newton's not going to get signed by anywhere.
That was, stuff happens. That's another thing. So. Time and having enough of it. I know we've talked a lot about that. Like you make time and this, that, and the other. And that's something I do with like podcasts. When I listen to podcasts, I listen to them while I'm working. And if I miss something because I'm so into whatever I'm doing, I can rewind and go back and whatever. And sometimes I skip through ads because I'm rude like that.
Oh, I skip through ads easily.
But the time thing. If somebody wants to do a podcast, so let's say like they've got the idea, they're ready to do it. How would they go about? How do you think a person should go about figuring out when they can record? Because I know a lot of people record on different nights, and it makes it hard. Or should you be flexible?
Okay, so the answer is yes. You should be flexible, but my life works better on a schedule. Mm-hmm. We record Monday nights, which. Sometimes gets in the way. Well, pretty much always gets in the way of watching football. Yeah. Sometimes, I'll have my phone like right on top of my laptop streaming the game while we're recording. But like I do the Split Take show on the DFPN network with Kevin Cutillo. Man, like months go by and we don't do a show just because we don't have a schedule. It's really just like whenever we can. And sometimes we just freaking forget. Like, oh crap, we pulled trades and never recorded our takes and never recorded the show. We can't use those anymore. I need the schedule. It's the kind of person I am. Like I have a Google Calendar where if I don't even write down, I used to make the mistake of just writing Russ podcasting and not writing who I was podcasting with.
Yeah.
Right. So like keep a schedule to me was always the best way. And to go back to the last question, also, my original goal was to make a 40 to 50 minute podcast. I don't remember the last show we did under an hour.
Yeah.
It's just because, again, fun. Why should I stop it? Do you have to stick to a schedule? No, unless you're doing a live show, in which case you absolutely better for consider, or just like open bar ish that.
Yes.
But no, like to me it was always easiest to pick a day. Every Monday 9:30 we record. Mm-hmm. If you work with other people that have a flex, that have if they work retail or they have their kids on random nights because their spouse or significant other or whatever, then yeah, absolutely be flexible, keep a schedule, try and don't miss weeks. That's what I'll say. The only time we ever missed weeks back in the beginning, when it was just me and Brian and like we were too terrified to let other people host our show and stuff like that, was when someone was sick or when someone was on vacation. Like if we had to, we couldn't find a co-host at the last minute, because if you're going to do a solo podcast, Good for you, because that is so tough. Like, hosting is so hard and you don't realize it. It's not something you really think is difficult until you have to go do it, and then it's so weird. Don't miss a show just because you think, okay. It's like the thing like people always talk about going to the gym. I'm tired. I'm not going to go. Well, I missed yesterday. I might as well miss tomorrow. You know, it's like one of those things where you just sort of rationalize not doing it. Stick to a schedule. Put a show out every week. If it's a 15-minute episode about you talking about one trade, you talking about one player, put something out just to keep yourself in the routine of putting out a show. Assuming you want to do an every week show, like you want to do an every other week, you want to do it once a month. Don't let yourself skip it, because you might lose interest in it. Like, you might rationalize it away. You might let it fade, and you clearly don't want to do it because it's something you want to do. So it's not something you absolutely need to do, again, unless you're a live show. But yeah, you have to keep it in the forefront of your brain if it's really something you want to do. You have to make sure you make it happen. But don't feel like, oh, well, we do every Monday at 9:30 and my co-host has a dinner with his in-laws that day, so I guess we're just not going to do a show that week. Well, no. Freaking see if they're free on Tuesday. Or, you know what, just get someone else to jump on you with that show. Or if not, you can't do Tuesday, let your freaking co-host do it with someone else on Tuesday. Like, just be flexible, but don't be absent-minded of it, I guess I should say.
No, and that makes total sense too. And I have no clue. I've been asking people to come on, but I'm like, what works best for you?
Well, now, absolutely. I mean, this show, you can do that.
Well, that's the thing. But I've got, like, I'm not sure if I have too much on my plate right now or not. I'm like, okay, well, I can start banking them and all that other stuff. But I mean, like, I kind of think I overspread myself, I guess you could say. Like, I'm like 3 people next week I get to talk to. Like,
yeah, that's rough. It's funny. Like, this draft year, the draft that just happened, I did the full first night with the DFPN Outwork guys, and then no, I did the full first night with the Superflex Super Show guys. I think, man, I don't remember what the hell I do anymore. Regardless, I did the first night with one person, and then the next, I did a bunch of different shows. Like, I hopped on with a couple of different people, and halfway through, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I have no energy left. I am so burnt. And I took a week off. Like, I didn't do a show the week after the draft. Like, I had Scott and Justin do a show because Brian and I just overdid it.
Exhausted. Yeah.
It is absolutely something that is real, because, like, it's funny, like, a lot of people, their first shows they do, you can't necessarily talk like you do if you're talking in person, because, like I said in the beginning, I will talk. I'm not going to do it again. Like, I'll put, like, my cadence is absolutely, it's definitely different. Like, you have to put more energy. You have to, like, I don't sound this energetic when you're talking to me in person. Like, it's just make it interesting to listen to. You can't sound like, this is really kind of what I sound like. This is how I talk.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot lower. It's a lot slower. It's a bit more monotone, but that's not really what you want to listen to when you're talking. Like, this is my excited voice.
You got to put on your, like, phone voice when you're
exactly. Oh yeah. Oh my God. My one kid I work with, his phone voice makes me want to strangle him. But no, like, you're exactly right though. It's you have to exert energy to do this. And again, it's not something you enjoy doing it, but it's still it's a factor. It's really something you have to put into account. And if it weren't you, I wouldn't have recorded on a Tuesday. Yeah. Because I try not to record 2 nights in a row because I don't want to wear myself out. But you tell me to record and I'm going to do it.
Yeah. We all know that's true.
Yes. So yeah, 3 people in a week. Hopefully you don't have any back-to-back days, but at least like with your kind of show, it's pretty great where you can record those 3 and still put them out once a week, and you can take time off.
Yep.
Like, that's the great thing about what you do, especially because we've talked 0 fantasy football, so nothing is time sensitive.
And that's what I want with this podcast. I want people to be able to come on, listen to me, just talk to people that are dope, such as yourself, about not about fantasy football, but about everything that goes into being a part of fantasy football.
Because I mean, let's say what it is. The people that are listening to this are people you have met through the fantasy football world, and the people you're going to bring on are people you met through fantasy football. So it is absolutely the connecting force, but it's not something that's not what you have to talk about. Like. No. Again, I'm sure someone giggled at the stupid origin of the name Dynasty Outhouse, and like, it's something that maybe someone was wondering about. Like, there's going to be like, you're going to have people on. They're like, oh man, I love that dude. Oh, that's how he started into this. That's so damn cool. I didn't know he did that. Like that's to me like when you said you were doing the show, I was literally just like, hell yes. And like, I know, I'm sorry to take this away from you. It's not like it was an original, like you're the first person to ever think of doing an interview show, but like it really is. It's an awesome idea that I think you are an awesome host for, clearly, and I am a spectacular first guest for.
Obviously.
And it's awesomely refreshing that it's literally just getting to know these people you feel you know because you've probably listened to them on all these podcasts. Like, it's absolutely true that, like, I remember the first time I talked to a couple of people, like the first time I talked to Zach Reed, I absolutely, of the Dynasty Dummies, which that show is just freaking fantastic. I absolutely just started talking like he knew who I was already because I've been listening to him like a year and a half at that point.
For sure.
And I'm just like, oh, right. You don't know me. By the way, I've been listening to you for a while, so I kind of just feel comfortable with you, but know nothing about you in the real world. And of course, now we're great friends. Because again, everybody's just people. So just talk to people if you want to. But, you know, sidetrack's
the best, though.
Right.
Because we're coming up with all these gems. You've got all these gems that the people want to know.
Yeah, I love the idea of this because you're going to learn things about people that you kind of feel like you know already. And now you will really get to, like, hopefully you know a little bit more about me than you did an hour and 42 minutes ago.
I mean, and yeah, like you're saying, like, definitely not the first interview podcast. I'm like, well, you know, there's a million fantasy football podcasts out there too. And it's like you gravitate towards the people that you like. There's plenty of shows that I've been like, you know, I'll listen to an episode here or there when somebody comes on that I'm a big fan of, but then there's ones where you're like, I want to listen to that podcast because the people's personalities or because I feel like I know them. And like, I know, like, okay, so spoiler alert, Matt Harmon's going to come on here, and he did his Backyard Banter show back, you know, years and years ago. And like, I loved listening to those shows because I know so much about, like, you know, people that I consider good friends because he talked to them and showed that those people actually care about my fantasy football team or want to talk to me about fantasy football or just want to talk to me about life in general. So like that idea. And I went and talked to Matt and I was like, hey, look, and he's like, you'd be perfect, you know, blah, 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 blah. So that's cool.
Yeah. I saw that tweet and that moment I went to Brian. I'm like, yo, if this happens, that network is like, yes. I mean, I'm excited. I really want to get people on here, big, little, middle, whatever, whoever, you know, if you want to talk fantasy football, cool. That's not the show. But if you want to talk, people like talking about themselves. I found, you know, it's just people like talking about themselves. I like talking about myself. And people like getting to know people, you know, it's just, it's a nice conversation, you know, that people don't have to just sit there and take stats and write down, you know, names. And that's what I do, you know, at work while I'm listening to podcasts like your podcast and everybody else's. Oh my God. That's
take
hilarious.
Some notes, but you know,
I've never done that before in my life. And I can't imagine actually doing that. That's so funny.
I gotta go look this player up. Let me write their name down. And he said he scored this many touchdowns.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
don't get me wrong. I've put in waiver claims listening to shows before, but like, wow, taking notes. That's
I have a nice notepad. I just recycled a ton of paper because I'm like, these Blake Jarwin notes do nothing for me. But
all about that Dalton Schultz life now.
Yeah. I got him from Bobby before.
Trade Addicts.
Come on, guys. God, I could just talk and talk. I swear, like, for this, I didn't want to just write down stuff. I have bullet points. I've hit most of them, but I don't really care because you're such a great person to talk to. Like, there's just so much stuff we could talk about. So I'll continue to talk to you about it.
I won't stop you.
I mean, we'll do a few more. Let me think real quick. On Twitter, I know that I heard you say before that, like, you don't really ever get any conflict towards you except for when you said something about, say, who was it?
No, it was
Kamara. It was Kamara, right?
Kamara. And I will take pure fault for that. It was a very poorly worded.
Yeah, that's what I say.
It was that run. It was he caught a pass and ran it in for a touchdown against the Packers, and I fell asleep because that's what I do well before that happened. And I woke up and all I was reading about how amazing of a play this was, how amazing this play was. And I watched the video and I'm just like, oh. And then I tweet the video out and I'm like, don't get me wrong, Kamara is great, but I don't understand why this play makes it seem like that. It just more than anything looked like the Packers didn't want to tackle him. And then people got mad. Like, that's literally, I've been on Twitter for 3.5 years as Dynasty Outhouse, and that's the first time anyone's ever yelled at me.
because you're a nice guy.
I just think it's because you'd feel stupid arguing with someone whose name's Outhouse. Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess that you could think that, oh, he's just a bot.
Like, really? Like, it's not really worth... Like, I feel like I exude enough of I don't take this seriously that nobody bothers arguing with me. I'm guessing that's really what it is, because people will argue with anyone. They don't give a shit what their handle is.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, yeah, that Kamara tweet was... And I apologize after a while. I'm like, okay, no, you are right. The angles he took are pretty great. His patience is, yes, okay. I worded this poorly. Yeah. It did not live up to the hype.
That's why I'm not a writer.
Yes, like, it did not live up to the hype of what it was. That is what I meant to say. It was 6:45 in the morning. I had not had coffee yet. I anger tweeted, "I'm sorry." It was a weak moment for me.
Yeah, but you're lucky that that's all you've really had to deal with.
I know it's. I think it's funny. It's luck. That's all it really is.
When people come at me, I kind of like bait them and kind of like continue the thing, and then I mute them. I don't block them, but I mute them. And then,
blocking gives them satisfaction.
Then other people come in and get in there. So, I have no idea what's going on. And I'm like, great. I don't have to fight my own battle. Somebody else can.
Yeah. But you shouldn't care enough to get into a Twitter fight.
But there's a lot of people that do like care.
Oh, there's a lot of people that do.
And I get that. If somebody says something rude about me, it stays.
If you make it personal, absolutely. And like for the stats people, like where people read a tone that absolutely wasn't there. Like if you listen to like the Late Round podcast, JJ Zacharyson a lot just says, I tweeted out a stat, which is a very tough phrase to say, and people just started yelling at me, and I was just I stated no opinion. I literally tweeted out a stat. That's all I did. Like and like I get it, like, people that deal more in numbers, because I really just don't deal in numbers at all.
Yeah, I know.
I would take it a lot more personally, because it's numbers. This man, if I like actually created a metric of any sorts and someone started arguing with me, I would tooth and nail that shit to the grave. But like, again, I just say, man, I don't think I get Robbie Anderson's awesome, but DJ Moore, like I'm not selling him yet. And like if someone starts arguing with me, I'd just be like, that's cool, bro. That's
all right.
Hey. I'm glad that's the way you feel. Go trade away DJ Moore and go buy Robbie Anderson. Good for you, man. Like, let's go do that. That's why that's the point of me. Talk about value and go make a trade because of it. I'm not going to sit here arguing with you that I think I'm right, because I don't know what the shit I'm talking about. Right? Again, Dynasty full of shit. That's what I am.
Dynasty full of shit. Oh, I was talking to my wife about doing this, and she's like, you guys are just guessing. At the end of the day, you're just guessing based on
which is why being entertaining is important.
That is, and that's why it's so frustrating when you see people come after people like Matthew Berry or the fantasy footballers or Liz Loza or anybody that's like a big name,
because they can't talk to people like us. They have to talk to the thousands of people that are reading their articles.
So you have to deal with it. They're probably smarter than you, me, and everybody combined.
Yes,
and we can see that in what they put out, but there's always those jerks. I mean, even in one of my redraft leagues, they're just like talking smack about like that big guys. I'm like, y'all gotta understand, like, first of all, they're getting paid. They're gonna do what works.
Yeah, they're talking to millions of people, not to your league specifically.
So it is what it is. I think that to be a part of this whole thing, to like actually get out there and put yourself out there, you have to just kind of have thick skin. And have fun with it. Like you said, it's fun. Yeah. But there's going to be those jerks. You're just going to have to learn that there's jerks, and then you're just going to have to deal with it. There's jerks in everyday life. You see them every day. So like,
don't fight it. Just walk away from it. Don't get dragged down.
Exactly. So let's go. Since we're talking about jerks, no, let's bring up Bobby's name again. No, I'm just kidding. I love Bobby. I love Bobby. No, but going back to your podcast, because your podcast is so different. It's the same kind of like, it's fantasy football, but that's where it kind of like is different. That's the only thing that I can see at being the same as other podcasts is it's about fantasy football, because you guys have so much fun on there, and you can tell when you have people come on and maybe you can see that they're not really as engaged as, you'd like them to be. Have you ever had anybody that's kind of like, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You try to steer the conversation to kind of get them more?
Either that or you just power through to get through the show.
Power through to get through. Yeah, because that's that's one thing that I worry about, like having a podcast like this, is that I'll be talking to somebody and they'll be like, yeah.
Oh my God, that's gonna be so rough. Like they have to know signing up for this that they have to give more than one word answers, right? You would think, but you're gonna run into one person that's like that for sure.
No, you're awesome at answering these questions, because you're like hitting like 3 or 4 that I had already in my head, and I'm like, yes, I don't have to do any of the work. You can do all the work.
No, again, I take over podcasts. It's just sort of what I do. I just don't stop talking. No, yeah, it's a little rough sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. Like there's people where, again, like it could just be their off show. It's not to say that these people are bad at anything, but like, yeah, like either you just sort of steer the conversation between you and your co-host and sort of leave the guest out, which is a little bit of a dick move. And if you don't want to do that, power through. Just keep going, go through your show sheet, get to the end, say thank you, log off, and start bitching to your co-host in a private DM. like that's really what it comes down to. Like, not every show is going to be great. You're going to run into either your bad show, or someone else will be on for your bad their bad show. It's going to happen. Just either embrace it and make fun of it while it's happening, or B, just get through it and apologize.
That's all you can do.
Again,
that's all you can do.
You're not, unless you're getting paid for your guest spot on a show, then don't be hard on yourself about it.
On the other side of that, have you ever had somebody either on your show or like on a show that you were guessing on that like, whoa, I can't believe I'm actually like talking with this person?
Oh, this happens to be a lot.
A lot, yeah. Because I get more nervous about that kind of stuff than like actual celebrities, I think. Like,
to be like, let's be honest, like some of these celebrities is a strong word, but like these people are like. I went to see the footballers live and I shook hands with them, and it's just like, whoa, dude, I'm shaking hands with the footballers. That's cool as freaking hell.
Yeah, that's freaking cool.
And like I'm going with Sal Lito, who's like Mr. New Yorker, who will literally talk to anyone and anyone. He doesn't care who the hell you are, and he just starts talking to them. I'm just like, hi. I'm on Twitter. You've liked one of my tweets once. I know the date. I remember what it was about.
Oh my God, that sounds like Sal.
Yeah, it is. But like, yeah, no, for sure. Like I said before, like at this point 3 hours ago, that show where I had Peter Howard and Tyler Gunther on.
Yeah.
When I first started talking to the dummies, which again, and all these people are now good friends.
Yeah.
It's like we build these people up because like before talking to a lot of them, I've been listening or following them for years. And it's just like you sort of build them up in your head. And once it was funny, we were talking before, like how you met David Johnson once, and then like at one half of me is just like, I would have nothing to say to meeting David Johnson. It's like, I'm very big into, I used to be very big into comic books. Like I used to go to conventions and all of that stuff. And it's like, I have a sketchbook that is just filled with drawings from all these comic book artists. And it's always super awkward because it's just like, I think you draw good. And then what? Like, what do you have to say? Like, David Johnson, you won me a fantasy championship. Thanks. I think you're good at football. Cool, man.
Yeah. All right.
Man, my non-existent watch is telling me it's time to go. Like, I have nothing to say to like these, like, but when you realize they're people, like, man, if you find any human being that has an interest in fantasy football, that has a pet or a child, start talking about those 3 things, and they're people. Like, that's all they are. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I could be in a group of people I've never met before and completely terrified, but someone just goes, man, my freaking 5-year-old. Oh my God, my freaking 5-year-old. Like, it's just like, it's like, so like, yeah, it is kind of weird to think that we hold these people up just because, like, oh my God, Shane freaking Manila was like the most, like, the moment he said that we were friends, it was like the greatest moment of my life. You know? Like, just because like you build these people up that you sort of not necessarily look up to, but like you listen to them so much. And like I said before, you get to feel like you know them a little bit, but you realize it's creepy because that you don't, and they don't know you. But so absolutely, like I've been a little nervous at first, but then you start talking and it's just like, oh, they're a person. I'm a person. They are on my show, even though I don't know if I asked them. They just sort of showed up one day, and here we are talking. So it's like it's no big deal whatsoever. And you will always go through that moment. And honestly, like it's funny to take in a little bit of a different direction. I still smile and giggle anytime anyone says Dynasty Outhouse or talks about the Trade Addicts Leagues on podcasts. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, the Dynasty Diagnostic would talk about Trade Addicts 6 all the time because Aton and Stompy are both in the same league. I still giggle every single time. Like, they're talking about my stuff on a podcast.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's the coolest thing ever. Like, and I really, honestly, I hope that never goes away.
No,
Like,
it's
and
great.
it's just so much fun to meet these people that, like, I've been listening to for years. And then all of a sudden it's just like, hey, man, you're a human being now, and I'm talking to you, and that's cool as hell. And like, I think you're going to run into that every single show on this because call yourself nervous, call yourself whatever you want. You're doing awesome at this right now. And I think you will continue to do so. So like, you will absolutely be a little struck at first, but then you're just be like, no, whatever. That's fine. I don't care. Let's do this.
And you know, I couldn't have asked for a better person to come on with me for my first episode.
Oh, you didn't even ask. I told you I was going to be the first guest.
Yeah. Okay. Excuse me. I couldn't have had a better guest on for my first show. No, because like you get me, and that's what's cool about fantasy football and the community is I know you and you know me, and we can be comfortable around each other, and it's not like oh my gosh, like this guy's. I mean, yeah, obviously you do a lot in the community with trade addicts and everything else, but like at the end of the day, you're my homie, you know? So,
yes.
You know,
anyone out there, by the way, if you just say hi, I don't give a shit. I'll talk to you. You know,
it's super dope to be able
my
to.
DMs are absolutely open. Slide up into them.
Mine were a bit.
Nudity to a slight minimum.
That's why.
If possible. Just, you know, like I said, I got kids. They don't need to see that. But no, absolutely. You know, ask me trade questions. You know, ask me how my day's going. I'll ask you how your day's going. That's good. Even if you're just asking, so I ask you, so you have someone to vent to. That's fine. I'll talk to you. That's fine. Yeah. I'm a person.
You are a very good person. I was gonna, you know. Well, listen. Okay, so this is this podcast. I almost wanted to name it Fantasy Guest House, but I thought that might sound a little like rated R, rated X. So that's really not.
No, but it's also cool that you got the word fantasy out of there in general, because if you do just want to start interviewing random people, you can.
Oh yeah, like drunkenly asked some rapper guy the other day that I really like if he wanted to come on because he asked me about fantasy football questions all the time. So I was like, awesome. There's my in. Hey, great. You know, so I'm like, cool. So no, I think starting this podcast was kind of selfish on my part in the first place because I just really want to talk to people that I really like. Just
that's not selfish. That's
other people want to hear it too. So you know,
you're growing as a person by putting yourself out there in the situation you normally wouldn't, and the byproduct is you get to meet some cool people.
Yeah,
that's how you have to think about it.
I'm going to look at it that way. And I'm hoping that people will listen and be like, you know what? I have never heard of this person before. I'm going to follow them on Twitter or whatever. Cause I do the same thing when I'm listening to podcasts and somebody's on and I'm like, wow, how do I not know about this person? It's crazy to me how many people are out there. I'll see they have 100 mutual, you know, followers with me or whatever. And I'll be like, I've never heard of this person in my life, but they're putting out amazing, like just the other day when I was running the show Twitter handle, I was following people because I'd never heard of these people before. And I'm like, they're putting out dope content. Come on my show. I would love to get to know you. So I feel other people are going to feel the same way, you know, kind of I'm hoping. We'll see how it goes. We're going to have a lot of awesome people, but nobody's going to be able to, you know, overtake you as number one. Outhouse.
That's why you got to get me on first.
Outhouse. That's a whole different thing. Also, showed my wife that video before I showed her the Russell Wilson video too. She's like,
my god, that was so funny.
What is this guy doing? What is he doing? Who is he? And I was like, dude, you know the shirt. You know the dude who I had to be like, sorry, I can't be on your podcast. I got engaged. Yeah, it's that guy.
Way to blow me off for getting engaged, you jerk.
I blow people off for a lot less than that. So, don't feel too bad about it. No, but Russ, I really am gonna miss having you on here. I'm really gonna next week when Bob Lung and Oklahoma Doug.
Look, if you want me to be the creepy guy that just sits here and
you know, like you know, doesn't Conan have like a dude that sits there like
I'll be your producer.
Yeah, you can just He's my producer, my security, my everything.
Yeah.
It's Outhouse.
I can't believe I did that. I think that's the first time I've ever done an actual video of something. But once I saw that Russell Wilson video was so damn lame, I couldn't not do it.
I mean,
and it's literally the only reason I did it is because my first name is Russell. That's literally the only reason I did it.
And I like it. I for those of you guys that don't know, I did not see the Russell Wilson video first. I know.
Unfortunately, that is
a
common occurrence.
Hell is this? And then I was like, seeing the comments, and I was like, okay, Russell Wilson did something stupid. Let me go find out. And I was like, all right, it makes more sense. Russ isn't losing his mind, but a little bit. All right. Well, I really do need to eat dinner, guys.
And we hit that 2-hour mark.
Yeah. That's another thing you guys can learn is make sure you eat before you go on a podcast or before you drink or both.
And bring water with you.
Yes, Whoop. Bring water. Yeah, I don't have.
No one's watching, but here I just put the cup on camera.
Oh, I do have water. Anyway, I'm gonna let you go ahead before we bounce out of here to just go ahead and tell me one more time what you're doing, what you get your hands in, how life's treating you, and all that jazz. You know.
I don't even know anymore. I do way too much shit. Well, if you're listening to this, you're following the Dynasty Addicts Podcast Network. But I do Trade Addicts Podcast with my brother at Brian Har FF. I do Split Takes show for the DFPN network, the best and only network in town, with at Kevin Cutillo. The Dynasty Game Night we do for the DLF, which also Trade Addicts, by the way, is DLF and Dynasty Addicts Podcast Network. Dynasty Game Night is with at John Bosch FF and at Matt Price FF, and I will never be at Russ Fisher FF, by the way. Even though anytime I join anything with John, he puts at Russ Fisher FF just as a joke. What else would do? For a while, I was doing the lunch break at the Outhouse, but man, work's been effing crazy lately. We're not going to start talking about work now. But yeah, so I haven't really had all that many free lunches to be able to bring people on and start talking, but I'd love to get back to doing that. I think that's all I do. I don't even know anymore. And then the FF pod shirts.storeenvy.com, which awesome free, it's not free stuff, but awesome stuff that, we don't get stuff. It's free because I don't get any money for it, but you get awesome stuff and it gets money to charity. So and go buy something that has something like Kacey's face on it.
Yeah, you can do that. And, if your dad's cool, your dad can do it too, because my dad did.
My dad does not own a Trade Addicts t-shirt. Well,
maybe I'll send him one from some random stranger from the internet that knows your son, from the internet.
That would be hilarious, by the way.
Hey, I just know your son from the internet. No big deal. It's not creepy. Russ, it's been awesome having you.
It's been awesome talking to you.
I just love it. And I'm so glad that you let me be a part of your podcast network. And I'm so glad that you are helping me out because I need it.
You are wonderful and amazing, but we're here to talk about how wonderful and amazing I am. So
that's what it's all about. Yeah.
I love the false bravado. It really just works well.
Alrighty. Well, you have a great one. Everybody listening, you guys have a great one too. And we'll be back at it again with more interesting people. Not as interesting as Russell.
It don't get more interesting than this guy.
Yeah, it doesn't. All right. Later.